ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the pursuit of hoppiness, but it's a little different because it's the end of the year. So it's the Pursuit of Hoppiness Beer Awards. That's right, we've all got together and we're all talking about best beer of the year, weirdest beer of the year, favourite beer of the year, and everything in between. Whether you're watching, which I advise you to do because it's an opportunity to see some of the beers that we're talking about, or just listening along, please do consider subscribing. It's a big help to us and it does mean a lot. Anyway, grab yourselves a beer because this is it's a bumper episode, and let's get going. So here we go. This is CookieCast, the Pursuit of Hoppiness.
Recording in progress.
Cheers to the beers and all that. There we go. This may or may not give some of you, YouTube watchers at least, an idea of what sort of podcast this might be. So to introduce Knitting Cast, here's Matthew Moore.
A crochet edition.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, if you haven't realised yet, through the beverages being sucked in front of you, it is the return of the Pursuit of Hoppiness, the world's foremost sporadic podcast about beer. Who knows when they'll turn up? They'll pop up in your feed just, when you were least expecting it, and maybe next year they'll be a little bit more regular on the kind of, scheduling, but probably not, to be honest. But we'll see how we do. But what we thought we'd do is, being as it's that time of year, we thought we'd kind of don our best suit and put on our best, dig out our dicky bow or our tie or something like that, and kind of have an awards ceremony. And then we forgot to put our suits on and everything, so we're just going to do it in our t-shirt. Alright, to kind of guide us through these murky waters of beer and non-alcohol beer and everything kind of in between is the Lord of Darkness, Mr. Stuart Woodmansey, and Mr. Paul Williams, everything that he is for your lemonade-based beverages, and for everything that is alcohol-free, Mr. Andrew Cook.
Cheers to you, sirs.
Cheers. So I decided we'd try and keep it as kind of normal as possible to start with. So we do our beers of the month, much to kind of some people's disappointment. But we need to do these things to give people shout out, because sometimes you can't be the best, but you can be the best for a short amount of time, and that sometimes is all that counts. So, gentlemen, your beers of the month, please.
Well, seeing as he has just called me the Lord of Darkness, why don't I kick it off with a dark beer? Shock. Mine was something that I got in my Brew York subscription box. It was a collaboration beer between S43 Brewery and Brew York, and it was Pumpkin Imperial, which appropriately for the time it was received, a pumpkin spiced Imperial pumpkin spice latte stout. So as you can imagine, tasted like coffee with the old pumpkin spice in, and it was a good kick at 9.5%, and it went down way too easily. It was really, really smooth. One of them ones where I think could be a bit weird, but they absolutely nailed the MO with it. Really, really, really nice beer.
Excellent. It does look tasty there. They're the S43 boys do produce some fantastic beers. Paul, you tease us
for the first time in possibly the entirety of our podcasting existence, I have two suggestions for beer of the month, and it is simply because they were too good to split. for me. So, the first one was one that I had out and about in town in the local Brewdog, which was Tony's Hopper Lonely. It is a milkshake IPA clocking in at 6.3%, and it is delicious. If you've ever tried any of the Tony's chocolate... Oh, Stu's got something to say already.
I take issue with that beer, and obviously the company in question, on the basis of I have had that beer, as I believe Mr. Moore may have had that beer, as I believe you may have had that beer before, because it was part of Brewdog's opening gambit at getting people on board with their very niche subscription box. And that beer was brewed specifically for the box, only for the box, never going to be seen again. You must have to buy this box to get this beer. Yeah, so you can now buy that beer in cans in the supermarket. Ridiculous. So...
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. Still a damn fine beer.
Maybe it's better on tap, maybe. I don't know. I've not drank it yet. It was somewhere in the depths of the stash.
It was a very nice beer in the can, soured somewhat by their practices afterwards, which is a little bit like a lot of the other Brewdog beers that have been produced at the time.
Yeah, no, not really. Can't really argue with that. But for me, it was one that I had whilst I was out in town. It was very nice. It was lovely, and it had a lovely sort of sweet edge to it. Obviously, with all the lactose that they pumped into it to make it a milkshake IPA. But yeah, thoroughly recommend. If you can find it somewhere, go for it. Obviously, as you said, should be available in, I believe, Tesco, maybe. But yeah, if you can get your hand on it, give it a try. It's very good. The second option was a beer that I believe Stu may have purchased for the group. It is a Turning Point Brew Company beer. It was one of a 3-set, and it is the Pink Matter Custard Raspberry Dessert Ale. Now, this one I've had for quite a while, and I'll be honest, it had managed to make its way into the stash that I had completely forgotten about. And when I came across it one day, I was like, well, hello. So obviously got it in the fridge, got it nice and chilled, took it round to someone's house when I knew we were going there for the evening, cracked it open, and it was that good that I basically had to share it around, as I wanted everyone to taste how nice it was. Another one of those ones that was just bang on with the sort of it was just the right sort of consistency, thickness wise. It had lovely sort of sweetness to it, but it wasn't as if you were just drinking juice or something. It still tasted like a beer, and just a really, really excellent one for me. So it'd be between those two. If I had to sort of just say the one, I would say the Pink Matter Custard personally. That would be my one of the two. But those would be mine.
Excellent. Yes, I had the pink one a couple of weeks ago, and it is absolutely fantastic. Andy?
So, I have a visual presentation, which for any audio listeners, I'll try and work through. This goes back a little while, but I'll explain. As these gentlemen here know, the NFL podcast stats mistress suffered a season-ending injury and left all of the jobs to me. But she did appreciate all of my hard work in making sure that most people in the house didn't die. And one day there was a knock at the door, and I opened the door to this, which for you audio listeners is the Big Drop Brewing Co. the Big Explorer pack. Inside the box was 3 of these, which again for you audio listeners is 3 boxes, and each box has 8 non-alcoholic beers in, all different, all Big Drop. And again, for you YouTube watchers, they all look something like this. A wide range, even a couple of lagers in there for stew. Now then, tucked away over here is this guy, the Big Drop Galactic Milk Stout. And this is a beer that the first time I ever had it, I thought it was horrible. I don't know if I got a bad one. I don't know if it's something that from where I drank it originally to the ones I've drank more recently, there's been a change in the recipe or something. But every time I drink it more recently, I like it more and more each time. Maybe my palate is changing. But over the last, few weeks, going into months, I've been working through those boxes. And a beer, I think it's because originally I didn't like it, but has now become kind of a standout beer for me. That is my beer of the month.
Excellent. Right then, I'm down the Paul route of things. I've had two beers I've had one beer that has been kind of there all month. I've been like, it's a proper good beer. It's the 84 Golden Grill Wonderland Special. I mean, that's a special one for James Williams as well as a name, which was a sour ale. It was just kind of right up my street kind of thing. So it like pineapple marshmallow guava kind of flavors to it, but kind of thick instead of the kind of thin kind of thing that sour can be. It was really, really good. I was like, yeah, that's my beer of the month. That's my beer of the month. That's my beer of the month. It's the Dig Brewing Company in Birmingham. And I was like, yeah, that's definitely my beer of the month. And then on Saturday, I had Neon Raptors Use It or Lose It, which is a pineapple and lime fruited sour IPA. And it's just like one of them ones that, we laugh about it all the time. I very rarely have more than one of a beer in the fridge at any one time. It's very much I have one of that one, and that's it, and we don't have any more than that. And then you drink a beer and you immediately regret it not having more than one of said beer. It just drank really, really well and went down really, really quickly. And it's just absolutely smashed it out of the park in terms of doing exactly what it says on the tin. It tasted, you could taste the pineapple, you could taste the lime, but also it had that IPA kind of mouthfeel, that IPA and kind of finish to it. So it wasn't too harsh on the kind of, because you think pineapple and lime could be really kind of sharp finish, but it kind of mellowed it out nicely just to kind of finish off. So yeah, I think Neon Raptor kind of just came through right at the end, dipped for the line, and took the beer of the month from Dig Brewing Company right at the last gasp, right there. So yeah, thank you for all those, gents. Right then, so let's get on with our end of year awards. I think we'll save brewery and beer of the year as the last two ones that we cover. So we'll do brewery of the year, beer of the year, and alcohol-free beer of the year last in the kind of in some kind of order like that. So let's start with the shop beer of the year. So these are beers that you can find in your local supermarché, as it were, and you don't have to travel over the channel to go and get them, because they'd probably be in your Tesco's or Morrison's or Sainsbury's. Probably not Asda. Talked about how Asda suck. And we can kind of go from there. So we'll go for the alcohol variety to start with. Alcoholic shop beer of the year, please, Paul or Stu.
Go, Mr. Woodmansey.
Okay, well, in the vein of you two, as just been, I couldn't split it between two. So, very briefly, cannot get past this section without mentioning the lemon meringue ice cream sorbet. the Buxton and Omnipollo beer that was in Tesco's briefly. It was £5 a can when it first came out, and then it went down to £3 for a while, and I got far too excited about that. I imagine this has got to be fairly up Paul's list as well, on the basis that it's like a lemon flavoured beer, so it ticks the lemonade box for Paul, but it was a little bit
too high.
Yeah, it was a little bit stronger than he's used to. So that was one of mine. And as soon as I read the categories that we were going to be discussing, when the shop beer of the year came out, as one of them, the Northern Monk Faith in Futures beer was one that immediately was on the list. In collaboration with Inter, loved all of the Inter series when they did that with their non-shop beers, I guess, if that's how we're going to describe that. Was a bit worried that they were going to ruin that series by giving it a bit of a bad send-off, but absolutely not. And as of probably about a month ago, I think that one, because the proceeds for that one they put back into local charities in and around the Leeds area, has become seemingly one of, certainly for the time being, one of Tesco's main lines in the craft section. So you can still, despite this being a summary of the entire year, you can still get Faith in Futures by Northern Monk in your local Tesco. So go check that out.
Yeah, I agree with the Faith in Futures one. That's when I wrote the category down, I immediately filled that bit in. I was like, yeah, shop beer of the year, Faith in Futures. Now I'm done.
So, on a similar sort of vein, I did have just Faith by Northern Monk in this slot, and then I had a last minute change of heart and remembered that at Morrison's sometimes, and more often than not in Sainsbury's, certainly in York, you can pick up certain Brew York beers, and I have given this particular one to Juice Forsyth by Brew York, which I believe is their juicy bonus fruited something or other. I'll have to look what it is, because I've literally only just made the change literally last minute.
I'm already looking forward to the YouTube subtitles for Paul's first opening gambit there. But I have a can of that in the fridge. It's their it was one of what they class as their core range that came in my subs box this month.
Yeah, so it's classed as it's classed as an IPA, but it's a juicy bonus fruited IPA, and it is fabulous. It is a very, very nice beer. If we're ever in Brew York, and I think like on the old podcast bingo, my most said phrase is probably a good reset beer, and I'd put that up there as one of those for me, because it's one of the ones that's got the little sweetness to it, but it's still a beer. And obviously, just almost like a sorbet, if you will. Just sort of cleanse the old palate, get you back to a nice base and stuff like that. And yeah, so that's always going to be a constant favourite of mine personally. So that'd be what I would give my award to for this year. We're going to say season, but yeah.
Yeah, I think like I said, I've gone Faith in Futures with the Northern Monk. It's a little shout out at the Buxton Lupus X, I think, is the one that they do in Tesco. I've seen that one was really, really good. That was absolutely spot on. Right then, shop alcohol free beer of the year. We're gonna look daft here, and Andy's gonna teach us some things. Right then, shall we lead off with that? We'll lead off with Andy, or shall we lead off with well then Paul, we'll lead off with you.
It's not that. Well, obviously I will give mine, but I wanted to sort of make an educated guess at this point that 3 of the 4, if not 4 of the 4, might be the same for this particular one. Obviously, listeners to the podcast at this point may not be surprised to hear that I personally have gone for the 0.3% Beavertown Laser Crush.
So I was going to say, when you were like podcast bingo, I was like, you want to hear podcast bingo? This is the point in the podcast where this beer gets mentioned, because I didn't hesitate on this one to say, and I'm going to keep going back, and I'm going to keep going back to this one. For me, the list it was just oh no, but I've got to put that bit. Well, can I put that bit there and then have that one? Because basically, other than like a couple of categories that, like, you know, one of those categories got filled in this weekend sort of thing, because I'm like, that has got to be on the list. Some of the beers, it's like, I imagine you guys could have written my list, but where they would have featured, but yeah, shot the fact that this, and I say it every time, every time we do one of these, the fact that this is readily available in shops, you can walk in and pick it up off the shelf, and it is hands down one of the best non-alcoholic beers out there. Yeah, absolutely, it's Laser Crush.
Yeah, that's what I've got on mine. Little shout out to Brooklyn Beers for special effects. That one
Absolutely.
is absolutely up there, but not as good as Laser Crush.
In terms of shop bought for me, I know this is like it's not the cool thing because it's the big boys and all the rest of it, but I actually went for the alcohol-free Guinness because they clearly owned up to the fact that they absolutely goosed it the first time around. Went away, made it better, and as an avid fan of the black stuff, they actually did make it just like, to me, it is very, 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 very similar. I'm yet to do the taste test of side by side, but it's grand, and I would actually quite happily buy a pack. I think as a you know, regularly a drinker of heavily ABV beers regularly, I would quite happily take a pack of that to like someone's house or a party or whatever, and that be my thing. And I think that's kind of what stands out for me. You
see, I feel like I'm letting the side down on this one, because at time of recording, I still haven't had an alcohol-free Guinness. I even
charged on that one.
I even looked today, and I thought, I was like, oh, there's some. And I was like, no, Guinness have just done something weird to their current box, which makes the top of it blue and makes it look like the alcohol-free cans. It's like, you don't be that guy. Come on, Guinness. But yeah, at this point in time, I'm like, am I ever going to try this stuff?
It's been notoriously difficult to find in my local area, but I know that it is sort of a nationwide thing, and I know that it has been seen out in the wild, so it is out there. It's just seemingly difficult for me to get hold of after. I think I've been through maybe 8 of them.
I think it sells really quick. I think I've seen it I've not looked at it around here, but at the Morrisons near to where I work, I've seen it in there twice, and I'll go in and think, I'll buy that, but then I'm like, it is 8 o'clock in the morning, so it's going to look weird if I buy, even if it is alcohol free, that's going to look weird if I buy that. I'll go back after work, and then it's not there. I'm like, who's buying all the Guinness? Who's buying the Guinness alcohol free beers? What's going on with that? Someone's just walking around. Yeah, fill my trolley with that. See you later. Right, now next category. We could have split these out into subcategories, and as I said at the time, we'd be here till Christmas. So I've gone for a very broad and a very general kind of thing of the IPA of the year. Now that can be triple IPAs, it can be double IPAs, it can be double dry hopped IPAs, it can be whatever. Just a standard IPA. It can be an IPA with one kind of, a specific hop. Whatever you want to do, I'm okay with that. But it has to be an Indian Pale Ale of some variety. We'll go with stew to start with.
Well, you've absolutely thrown me a curveball there, because when I saw IPA on the list, my brain just went, "Ooh, right, IPA, right, look. So I haven't even considered the dippers and the tippers for this, which is unusual, I guess, for me as well. But as IPA, I have the X-Parrot Brew York 6.5% tropical fruit IPA is mine. Pretty much fluorescent orange. It's thicker than me and just is delightful. Really, really good beer. Didn't really expect a lot from it when I opened it, which I think kind of made it even better. Yeah, it's just it hit all the right notes for me in terms of the mouthfeel. It wasn't overly fruited, so you still got the bitterness of the hops and stuff as well. But it just everything was in perfect balance. So I've gone for the X-Parrot.
Excellent. Paul?
So mine's a bit of a out of left field one that I when I was scrolling back to my Untapped, which I was very lax with this year, not as on top of it as some people were. I found a beer that I had completely forgotten that I'd had this year. Tiny Rebel released a short run of cocktail-based beers, and one of them was a Pina Colada pineapple and coconut double IPA that was 7.2%. And honestly, when I had it at the time, I had to keep checking back to make sure that the can was actually beer, because it tasted just like a Pina Colada cocktail would. It was unbelievable. I think at the time I rated it 4.5 stars, or Suns, as my mate was convinced it was on Untapped at one point. But yeah, just they'd got the sort of the mouthfeel absolutely spot on, creamy finish. Oh, it was superb, really, really good. I don't think they'll be doing them again, so I think that one might end up just being a one and done, sadly. But if they have got a few cans kicking about somewhere and you can get your hands on it, do it, because it was excellent. It was really, really good.
Sounds good. That sounds really, really good. I have obviously not explaining my own rules has left me kind of think that to play with, to do it as I want, and as these guys know, I am always a sucker for a triple IPA. If there's one I can sniff out at any point, I'll definitely find it. If Wylam do it, then I'm definitely going to be all over it. And so my IPA of the year is the Wylam triple IPA for early on in the year, the Tales of Majestic Puck. It was, my favourite beer of all time is still Midnight Train to the Biker. I absolutely love that beer. I dream of that beer. I want them to make it again. They won't. The Majestic Tale, the Tales of Majestic Puck as close to Midnight Train to Biker as they've got. It was just, it had everything that you want. It was like 10%, something like that. It didn't drink like 10%. It was juicy. It was like, to quote Paul, a Bosch around the chops, but in a good way. But it had that nice kind of burn, that hoppy burn at the end of it as well, and it was just again, you get to the end of the can, you're like, oh man, should have bought another one of that, because I'm going to miss having that beer again. Yeah, it was absolutely awesome. It was just a proper triple IPA kind of, yeah. I couldn't not. I kind of was flicking through my things. I was like, oh, maybe that one, and then I came to it. I was like, it's game over. We'll go right there for one of the best breweries in the country when it comes to IPAs and that type of thing. Yeah, right then. Alcohol-free IPA of the year.
So I looked at this and I was like, I'm going to put this down. Done and dusted. And then something was like scratching away in the back of my mind, and it was like, you've forgotten a big one. I'm like, I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right. And then I did some inventory. Opened the fridge. I was like, oh yeah, I keep saving that beer. Hang on a minute. So, my IPA of the year is one of my favourite beers of the year. The Tiny Rebel So Let's Talk collab beer. The Speak Easy non-alcoholic IPA. It was one of those that when I had it originally, it was like, oh, funky can. I believe there's something to do with the proceeds go towards mental health charities, I believe. And I was just like, let's give this a try. Tiny Rebel do good non-alcoholic stuff. Great. And I cracked it, and it's super light. It's like when you pour it, it's really like almost heading towards clear and stuff. Not gonna lie, didn't expect massive amounts from it. I was just like, let's give this a try. And it is one that sits way up at the top of my reorder list, because they seem to be available quite a lot to order. And it's always up there, and it's always a beer that I order more than one. So I'm always like, there's always that list of the heavy hitters. It's like two of you, and that is always up there as a two of you before I even get into the I'll just get one of you, or the that's new, I'll try that. But it's always up there, always up at the top of the list.
I definitely have one of those in the fridge that I'm cracking. Any other lads? Any other from Stuart Paul? Have you?
I went with Transcendence, the mash gang. So, I again, any beer that we've had from Mash Gang has been an experiment, shall we say? And I dare say that the gents that make the stuff would probably, hopefully, take that as the compliment in which it's meant. Didn't know what to expect when I had it. Had a nice haze to it, and yeah, just good solid IPA. Couldn't fault it. It stacks up against like what the regular IPA style. So I as soon as I saw the alcohol-free IPA, I was a little bit torn with the is it Pine Trails, the big drop one. Because I did enjoy that one as well, but Transcendence took that for me.
Yeah, Transcendence for me as well. I went with that one. I think we discussed it on the Mash Gang podcast that we did. That it's not an alcohol-free IPA; it's an IPA. It stands up against IPAs from breweries that are doing it with alcohol in. I think it's just that. For me, it was really, really good. Yeah. Paul?
It's a shame we've come to me last, really, because my alcohol-free IPA of the year was a 0.3% Beavertown Laser Crush beer that I believe we may have discussed at length earlier in the podcast. If I'm being honest, my dealings with alcohol-free beer this year has been minimal, obviously, as I don't tend to drink it that often. Granted, we've covered a few bits for the podcast and stuff like that, and we've had a couple here and there. I'm yet to have one better than Laser Crush, to be honest with you. I know the ones we had from Mash Gang were very, very nice, but I'd still just give the edge to Laser Crush for me. I think they've absolutely nailed that recipe so well that I think, if I was going to someone's house and I was driving, I think for ease as much as anything else, but obviously for taste, that is the beer that I would be going for 9 times out of 10.
Excellent.
So, before we get into even more beers of the years, we will take a small break. So grab yourself a beer, alcoholic or otherwise. Look at that, that's an empty glass right there. Fill those glasses, people, and we will be right back. Catch you in a minute.
Recording in progress.
Sounds about right to me. Back to you, Matt.
After a brief kind of stoppage for the winners to dry their tears and finish their speeches and all that kind of thing, we're going to crack on with the rest of our awards. And now into the kind of big category, the Stout of the Year. And I'm going to jump straight in with this one. I've gone for the Small Ton Cocoa by Brew York as my Stout of the Year. I've had a funny year with stouts. I think I've had some that have been a bit too kind of bitter for me, kind of thing. I don't know whether my palate's kind of talked about palate changing and stuff like that. But with the small kind of effect of this, it kind of not quite as sweet as the Stay Puffed. But I quite enjoyed that kind of like the chocolatey kind of finish to it, with the small kind of taking the edge off that kind of stout side of things. I think, and always with the Brew Yorks, they've always got a really good mouthfeel. It kind of it drinks really, really well, kind of almost like just a nice kind of liquid, kind of hot chocolatey kind of feel as you drink it, kind of thing. So yeah, that was the Small Ton Cocoa by Brew York. Ton Cocoa was mine for this year. Stu, do you want to?
My stout of the year was also a Brew York beer. It was part of the Freaky Friday series, or Freaky Franchise series, I can't remember, but it was around the horror theme. So this was, I believe, possibly even the last in that series, and it was by the name of The Dream Child. It had a bit of Freddy Krueger on the artwork on the can, but it wasn't as horrific as the label would make out. It was 14%. But it was Rocky Road Ice Cream Pastry Stout, and it was perfect. Like I literally cannot say anything else about it. It was absolutely perfect. It was. I love stout. I love the dark beers. I would quite happily have, even if it's a big hitter, I'll quite happily go and rock a pint of it if I can. If it's not like £15 for the privilege. I had a can of this, and I had to drink it in like a small glass and just keep topping it up. There was no way you could have absolutely sat a pint of it out. It was heavy going, but it was amazing. It was just exactly as you would think in the respect of it was a beer. It did kick your ass all the way through, but it was also like having that done by chocolate, marshmallow, biscuit, and ice cream. So absolutely nailed it.
Awesome, that sounds really good. Paul?
So when I was working out this one, again, I had a quick look back through my Untapped, and I couldn't see an awful lot of stouts. So by default, I kind of had to give this one to the stout that I know that I've purchased more than once. It's come up on the podcast before, so it'll come as no surprise to people, but I went with the Full Fathom 5 coffee coconut porter, I think it was, from North. Every time they brew it, it's a big hit. I think it always seems to go down well between us and our sort of group of people. Just a really consistent, smooth, bodied beer. It's a really, really good one.
Excellent. The other thing I was going to give a shout out to with the eggnog, the white stout in the Tiny Rebel kind of Christmas collection from last year. Mm-hmm. I think I had that. That was unbelievably sweet and a bit kind of messed with your head a little bit, that one, because it had the kind of mouthfeel of a stout but looked like something else, but tasted really, really good. Right.
As a little shout out, as an aside, I know it's not an official award, but not only does the like that stout that I mentioned fall into that category for the best. The most disappointing beer I've had this year was also a stout. So a quick mention for the Goose Island Cream Egg Stout, because that had all the promise, all the hype. Fucking terrible beer.
Yeah. Should have been so good. Ryan, alcohol-free stout of the year.
So, I have not done myself any favours. I like to make life difficult, mostly for myself. So, for you YouTube watchers out there, you're going to get a helpful hint of what this stout might actually be. And I'll try and do my best to describe. So, it is... I sent it to you guys. It's this guy. Somebody might have to help me out with what I'm actually supposed to call this. Because I've gone with SVAT HVIT.
Yes, Svart. Vit.
Probably just offended some like Scandinavians with that.
Yeah. Oh my.
I think the rest, which is in a different language, I believe it says alcohol free, and I'm going to go with milk stout. But the next picture is what's important. I like to try as many different things as I can when I place an order. As I've previously mentioned, there's the heavy hitters, the guys that get 2. There's the I like that one. I'll get one of those, and then pretty much 50% of the order is, oh, that sounds interesting. Oh, I'll give that a try. Oh, this was one of those, and I'm not going to beat around this one. It's gone way up there on the list of will buy again, because on the back, let's see if any of this stands out. Malty, coffee, vanilla, sweet, black are the words on the back. And I believe at the time I sent you gentlemen the pictures in question. This is the other picture, which is just that stuff that I read out there. This was very much a chewable stout. It was oh my god, this is so thick and so right. It tasted amazing. It was chocolate, it was coffee, it was chewable, it was thick, it was amazing. It's one of those that I tried and it went straight in with a bullet. I was like, yes to this all day, every day. It was amazing. But unfortunately, when I came to, like, when I went through the categories and I saw stout, I was like, don't even need to question that one. Went straight to it, and then I was looking at it going, I mean, what do I even call this thing? So, as best I can, that is what it is. That is stout of the year for me.
Yeah, Paul, have you got a...
I do. Again, this is one that we covered on the podcast, I believe. And I'll be amazed if at least one of you two hasn't also got this. And the way that Matt's potentially grinning, I think I may have nailed this one. But my alcohol-free stout of the year is Arctic Beach. The Big Drop Einstock Olgero 0.5% coconut milk stout, I believe it was, and it was incredible. That one was, it was thick, it was coconutty, it had sweetness in the right places. It as Matt keeps saying, it didn't drink like an alcohol-free beer. It just drank like a stout, basically. If you were to give that to someone and just say, have a taste of that, what do you think, and don't say anything, I think people would be hard-pressed to have come back and said that it was an alcohol-free beer. Very, very good for me.
on the basis that the YouTube viewers will have seen me hold up the photograph of that said beer, that is clearly my choice as well. I did have the Galactic Milk Stout on my list, and then it was scrubbed, because when I wrote that down, I was like, oh man, there was another one that we had when we did around the time that we did the podcast, and it was part of that box of like the 4 different collaboration beers, wasn't it, that Big Drop were doing. And I'll be honest, when we put that order in, I was probably most excited for every other beer that was in that box. But that one came out absolutely miles above the others. It's just so good. Effectively, from what we talked about before, that is the non-alcoholic Tom Coco.
Yeah. I haven't drank that one yet. It's in the box.
What?
I'd forgotten about it. It is the kind of honest to God truth about it. So I have that. So I'll be sharing that with you lads when I drink it at some point, and you can all kind of be. I went with the Galactica from the Big Drop kind of thing. I think when we did the podcast, I think it was the beer that I raved about the most, and it was because I drank it on the podcast, and I was like, holy shit, this is a stout, and it tastes just like a stout. You could have closed my eyes and told me that it was a 6%, 5-6% stout, and I would have gone, yeah, fine, sounds perfectly reasonable to me. It's outstanding, that one. So obviously when I get round to the other one, so I'll be looking forward to that one.
That was going to be my point. I was basically just going to say, so imagine how nice that one tasted, and just basically put a little bit of bounty in your mouth, and there you go. You're going to enjoy the coconut one even more.
Lovely. I'll be looking forward to that one. Right then, let's get whistling through these. Next one, sour of the year. So this can be triple fruited gozes. It can be sours. It can be whatever you want. Paul.
This is another one that I went a bit back and forth on, because again, podcast bingo for viewers and listeners of the podcast. They might be quite familiar with the fact that 3 of the 4 members of this podcast are quite au fait with the North Triple Fruited Goes series of beers. I did originally have the Tayberry Triple Fruited Goes as my number 1 in this slot. However, I did bump it for the Gypsy Hill squashed banana and blueberry sour that we had at Craft Beer Calling. It was one of the very few beers that I think I went back to get 2 or 3 times, from what I can remember of that evening as well. Obviously, I was only getting it in small quantities, but sharp, sweet, just thick. It just ticked all the boxes, really. There was, I'll be honest, there wasn't many beers that Gypsy Ale had on that night where it wasn't good. So that would be mine. Like I say, very closely ran with the Tayberry TFG from North.
Excellent. Stu?
Much like Paul, I fully expect the regular listeners and viewers to think, oh, this is blatantly going to be TFGs all round. Whilst they are solidly up there, not on this occasion, and I will do a little bit of flag flying for our local brewery, or my local brewery of Atom. They produced PH this year, which is a red currant and strawberry sour, 6.5%, remarkable. I had this on draft, actually in the bar, probably not too long after bars reopened, with everything going on, and proceeded to buy 3 more cans of it. So, whilst I was in the bar still, and just incredible. It absolutely matched TFG, the TFG series, for terms of the flavour. It was a little thinner in its consistency. I don't know if that contributed to the fact it then made it drink a little easier in the respect of it was pretty juicy in that respect anyway. But yeah, I will fly the flag for the Hull Brewery in Atom and plump for Sour of the Year for me for PH, the red currant and strawberry variety.
This is where I picked mine based on the fact that I thought you guys would pick the North Triple Fruited Gozes. And I thought, oh man, I'm gonna have to pick something different. So I'm gonna pick the brown sugar cinnamon Triple Fruited Goze by North. I can't remember what the third thing was.
Peaches, brown sugar, and cinnamon.
That's the one. I'm gonna pick that one because that was out of the gift, the pack. All of them were fantastic, but that brown sugar, peaches, and cinnamon one was just awesome. It kind of the cinnamon was really nice as a kind of aftertaste. The peaches and the brown sugar kind of gave it that kind of almondy, marzipan-y kind of taste, which was really, really good. And I really enjoyed that. And that was.
Do you remember having that at Brewer's Table when we were up at Wylam?
100% not.
Because it was after we'd bought the pack of the three, but before we'd had a chance to have them, and there was that awkward. I remember there was that awkward moment where it was like, "Do we get this beer? Because if we really like it, we'll be really happy, and that's all cool." But actually, because I don't like cinnamon, so that was the one that I was nervous about. And then we got it as a third, and I was like, "Holy shit, we need to get more of this." And I'm pretty sure we went to try and order some more of that, and it had gone.
I'd gone.
So.
That night is a blur, but a bit more about that later. The one that I bumped off the list was Alfonso the Mango, the mango sour by Full Circle, that are a brewery in Newcastle. It was just awesome. When I was flicking through, I think I only drank it recently anyway, and I was just like, all right, yeah, that was awesome. So that was apologies to Alfonso the Mango and Full Circle for bumping them off the list, but the brown sugar, peaches and cinnamon Triple Fruited Goze by North was just absolutely knockout, and don't blame me, it's there to them two's fault because I thought they would have picked it instead. Right, alcohol-free sour of the year. Now, I could see some overlap coming with this one. I could see future overlaps coming as well, kind of thing. But we'll start with Andy.
I struggled with this. The reason for that will become apparent later, maybe further down the listing. But something that I have found a new enjoyment for is raspberry sours. As a rule, I'm not a fan of raspberry, so we're off to a cracking start there. And I once had a horrific experience with a strawberry beer. So something like raspberry based, I'm a little like, eh. But when you're ordering stuff and you're like, well, I'll try it, give it a try. Something that stood out, and again, I've not done myself any favours here because I'm pretty sure I'm going to struggle pronouncing at least a couple of these. The Pujala Penzlauerberg alcohol-free raspberry sour. If necessary, I can get a picture of it up. I believe I can get a picture of it up. The raspberry sours have been amazing that I've had. It was when we got into the sour section, it was a bit of a difficult one, which we will come to. Of course it's not on that page. There was another one that was very close, but I had to knock it off the list for a particular reason. So yes, typically I have lied and cannot find a picture because apparently my go-to place for ordering beers, I'm guessing they've run out. I will. No, because it's there. It's there. I'll get you a very small picture. It's the one in the middle. It's that guy.
Nice, yes.
So yeah, something that I've discovered this year is I do enjoy a raspberry sour. I think I had another one at one point that was like raspberry and something else, and that was very good. But this one wins for me.
Good. Right, I'm going to go crack straight in with mine. Mine is the Rush Rider Pastry Sour by Big Drop and Amundsen.
You son of a gun. Remember I said I had to move something round?
We'll come back to that one later.
Indeed.
Well, I had a question at this point, because if we're going strictly alcohol free, I have Rush Rider on my list as well. If we're classing alcohol free and Nolo together, you can't look past Soft Scoop, the Gypsy Hill Mash Gang. It was 1.2%, so it is further up the chain on the scale. However, I'm not going to challenge you to find me a better alcohol-free or low-alcohol sour. I'm going to challenge you to find me a better beer than that, because that beer was goddamn awesome. Had it on draft when we were at Craft Beer Calling. Luckily enough, Mr. Moore had managed to score a can of it as well. Just give that, like, if I, you know, like the big American fridges have got like the little water dispenser on the front with the ice thing. If you can somehow arrange for that to be installed in my house without the water supply, just have Soft Scoop coming out of it instead. Incredible, so good.
Yeah,
You'll be shocked to hear that is my pick as sour, alcohol-free sour of the year. Like Stu said there, yeah, it is 1.2%, but I think it still qualifies. So that was my sour of the year. It's the one beer that I'm pretty sure of the 6 of us that were sat around the table, I think, did everyone try it?
Yeah.
And everyone potentially went back for it more than once.
4 of us definitely did.
Yeah.
I think I had it.
That tells you all you need to know. And this was us at a beer festival, not an alcohol-free beer festival. So
It was. I think I classed it as a palate cleanser / kind of break beer.
Yep.
Kind of thing. Alright, yeah, so I'll just have another one of them while I'm there. The guy at Gypsy Hill were like, seriously, another one of them? Yeah, yes, please. I'm just as a spoiler alert, kind of similar to like how Andy reacted when I said the Rush Rider one. I'll be discussing that later. Right, the kind of best category, the kind of thingy, weirdest beer of the year. I think we could probably just all kind of weirdest beer of the year. Just a beer that's just made you go, wow, what? Hang on a minute, like what the hell, kind of thing, or just made you think I've got to have it, or made you think kind of thing. I'll jump in with this one. I've gone for the Big Blue Birthday Dipper from Alpha Delta. It's blue, and that's all you need to say. All you need to know, it's blue. They pour it, and it's blue, and it's a dipper, and it tastes absolutely awesome. And unless it's a triple fruited goes or some kind of sour, it shouldn't be blue, and it shouldn't taste awesome. But it's absolutely awesome double IPA. It absolutely hits all the notes in terms of drinking it, in terms of the flavour, in terms of that nice little kind of burn from the hops at the end of it. And it's just a fun blue beer. That's why I had it the moment we walked into Craft Beer Calling. It's why I went and bought you guys a can, and I bought 2 for myself, because I was like, I'm not going to have this beer several times, and that doesn't happen very often.
By the time I got to it at Craft Beer Calling, it had gone. So I'm still yet to experience that. However, it is chilling in my fridge currently. I took weirdest as not necessarily the one that I enjoyed the most.
No, it's just weird.
So my weirdest beer was one that I expected to think was okay. However, myself, as we mentioned earlier, myself and Mr. Moore took a little trip to the Brewers Table at Wylam Brewery a little while ago, whilst like lockdown was kind of still a thing, I guess. It was all socially distanced, and a brewery by the name of Fine Ales had made their way down from Scotland. So there was a rhubarb beer, Origins Brew, Nadar Rhubarb by Fine Ales, 6.3% rhubarb sour. Sounds delightful, right? Yeah, except for they brew it and then just leave it in the yard, in the open air, for the natural yeast in the air to do its thing with the beer. And the second that guy started talking, I could feel I felt like my beard was like 3 foot long, and I'd started to. It was just such a hippie, man. Honestly, like it was the most bizarre thing. Oh, how do you make this beer? I always leave it outside for a couple of nights, mate. It just sorts itself out. What the? Just no. I mean, I very much enjoy my beer. Could do without the bugs in it first. That just no. So that was my weird one. I couldn't deal with that very well.
Paul?
So mine, I went with one that confused me more than anything else. So, as we've mentioned before, my brother, not a huge fan of craft beer. I believe the phrase he's used is all taste the same, or all taste like dishwater, etc., etc. He used to query
himself a Stella,
of course, or a cider, normally a cider. He always used to question why Stu was drinking pint after pint of what appeared to be orange squash occasionally when he would put things on Facebook and James would see him. I found a beer through Trembling Madness, which is a beer shop in York, local to me, but they do deliver nationwide. I'll just show you the picture basically. So it was this. So that is a tropical smoothie ale. It has pineapple, mango and peach as your fruity options, and until I got to probably the bottom of the Insa label, I pretty much could have been told that I was just having a, glass of Tropicana or something like that basically. Didn't taste alcoholic at all. Could have sworn at some point I basically drank some sort of pulp or something like that, because it tasted just like it would have had pulp in it and things like that, and it was so good that I kind of wished I'd got more, but it was one of those. It's probably one of those dangerous sort of borderline ones where you're like, is it beer or is it like an alco pop type sort of? Yeah, what is it sort of thing? Because smoothie ale, it in, but nice it certainly was.
I mean, this is the guy slating Alco Pops, having confessed his love for Radlers, so work that one out.
Shh. And weird alcohol-free beers.
Remember how I was saying I don't like to make my my time here easy. Yet again, I've hit another. I can't probably pronounce this, but I'm pretty sure before I get any further. Yes, I have the picture set up and ready to go. I had it set up. The weirdest bit of the year I had on Saturday night. It went a little something like this, as I've said about 12 times already through this. I order random stuff. And it turns up, and I drink it, and I go, yeah, okay, or no, thank you, or whatever. This was one of those where I went in the fridge and was like, the hell is this? Looked at it, turned it over and went, what the hell have I ordered? Paul might be able to help people out on this one when I get to what the flavours were. Weirdest beer of the year is the Omnipolo Balabasopa non-alcoholic pale ale. And it looks a little bit like this. Now what's interesting, and what I said Paul might be able to help with here, is the fact that it's brewed with blueberries and vanilla. And if anybody knows me, two flavours that I actively avoid are that's right, blueberries and vanilla. So when I'm looking at it going, why have I ordered this? I cracked it open and I started to pour it. It's purple. And I'm not talking a little bit purple, I'm talking like, remember that scene in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory where the girl turns into a blueberry? Yeah, that kind of purple. And as I am going to hate every minute of drinking this. Took a sip or a gulp of it, as it turned out, because that stout I mentioned, this was thicker than that stout. It poured like and it was delicious. However, myself and Stuart Woodmansey have had a conversation previously where the one thing you don't want from your beers is to be picking bits out of your teeth. And on the foam on the top I was like, is that like a little tiny bit of blueberry or something? Last thing I did, I was like, right, I'll let the dog out and I'll go to bed. Just let me finish this beer. And as I was walking into the kitchen, I was like, as I had what could only really be described as grit in my mouth. There was so many bits in that last mouthful. It did take a little shine off that beer. But up to that point, that beer was amazing. I was like, I think it was probably my expectation to absolutely despise it, and then every element of pouring it, drinking it, and going, no, that's actually really nice. So there you go. Weirdest non-alcoholic beer of the year is that one.
I've gone with the Uncommon California, the malt beer, the malt kind of from Mash Gang. It's it's still messing with my head now. I don't know if I like it or not, or whether it's just still there.
I have that on the list as well, and my points that I've written on here. It's not a lager. It's not an IPA. I should absolutely hate it, but I didn't. And that kind of summed it up for me. So yeah, I have the same answer.
Yeah. Paul?
So, just sort of repeating stuff that's already been said, this is where I put the Rush Rider, the Big Drop Amundsen Pastry Sour, was it, I think?
Mm-hmm.
How the hell it was sort of non-alcoholic, I don't understand. It was just weird.
Yeah, it's awesome. Right then.
I believe that there is potentially a not one break in this one, but a two breaker. A two breaker. Can you believe it?
So we've got time to go and put our suits on now, right? Isn't that
for the final category?
Mm.
Ooh.
What have we got? What have we got left? We've got event, beers of the year, and brewery.
Beer of the year, brewery of the year, event of the year.
So it is the big hitters. So if you're ever going to dig out the tux, now is the time.
If only I had a tux that fit.
Oh, sorry, tux. I meant Twix. I've had a few beers. I need something to start soaking it up now.
Well, We're going to take a break and we'll be right back for the big categories, the bad boys. Here we go. Back in 2.
Recording in progress.
Part 3 in some ways. Matt.
Right, here we go. The big categories, the ones everybody's waiting for, the ones everyone's sat on the edge of their seat to see if they're going to win. So we're going to crack on with event of the year. Alright, so it could be any kind of event, beer-related event that you think is worth a mention. Stu, do you want to kick us off? I think I know.
I mean, this will be absolutely predictable for you guys. It will be predictable for regular listeners. In terms of, we've been pretty restricted on events of the last 2 years. However, this year we had the weirdness of the Brewers Table event, where it was kind of a bit half and half. We had the probably in some ways the even weirder craft beer calling, because that was essentially back to normal. And then Hop City was kind of in the middle of that, where everybody had to test, but yet it then was kind of normal when you got in. That was the 3 that I've been to personally. Of the 3, I have to pick Hop City, purely because we had the different experience this time of being volunteers, and it was just a laugh from start to finish. Absolutely loved every part of it. The guys who were running the show were dead chilled out. There was no stress to it at all. They put out a bit of a mandate at the beginning to make sure everyone had done the testing to keep everyone safe and secure. Don't turn up without having done one. And it was possibly the most realistically, how can we call that a job for the afternoon? Because it was just fun. Like, we got to talk to we met the guys from Mash Gang. We got to talk to some other awesome people. We got to pull beers for different breweries, and then after all of that, got to experience it from the consumer side as well. Having not had to pay for the ticket because we'd worked the first session, and it was just, I mean, I don't want to do anything else that's happened this year too much of a disservice, but that was probably not just my favourite event of the year. That was just my favourite day in the entire year. I bloody loved that day, and if that happened, if we could be volunteers and have that over again, I would quite happily do that every single time. And despite what Paul said at the end of that day, even in the winter version of it, when they do Dark City, even if it was outside, I would still do it because it was fun.
When you piss wet through, come back and talk.
Hey, well, you can take the man out of Royal Mail, but you can't take Royal Mail out of the man. I'm well versed in being piss wet through for an entire day, so if it means having a beer in your hand instead of somebody's parcel that they've bought off eBay at 2:30 in the morning and then regret every second of it, I will quite happily take the piss wet through with a beer in my hand. Thank you very much.
Paul?
So I did consider Hop City, but I decided to give this one to Craft Beer Calling. 2020 crossed out 1, which was the official branding on all of the glasses and everything, which I thought was quite a nice touch. Yeah, I think that one just got the edge slightly for me, just because I think even though you had to pay for the drinks, I still think I tried more that night than I did at Hop City. And I don't know if that was just because for the first hour of it we were all just a bit knackered from having sort of lumped water around and pulled beer for loads of punters and stuff like that, or just generally just standing around for the better part of 6 hours or whatever it was. But yeah, I just think that Craft Beer Calling was, like Stu said, it was that sort of thing where it was kind of getting back to normal. It was probably of the two, it was the festival that felt more like it could have just taken place any time in the last 5 years or whatever. something I would have potentially put on there if it had taken place would have been the York Ale and Cider Festival Ale Trail. So this is something that they do in the weeks leading up to the Ale and Cider Festival that they put on at the Knavesmire, where it's usually 20 bars in York and the surrounding area that they put in a pamphlet. You go to all these different bars, and if you get a half pint of real ale or cider, they'll give you a stamp. You then collect all 20 stamps if you can be asked. Send your pamphlet off, and it gives you 2 free entry sessions into the Ale and Cider Festival. Obviously, there's been no Ale and Cider Festival for the past 2 years, so that hasn't happened. So I dare say when that comes around next year, that will be something that we pick up again, especially here in York.
Thanks for that.
Drinking 10 pints to get free tickets sounds more like a challenge to me.
Obviously, you don't do it in one day.
Well, I ain't doing it then. No,
Well,
I don't live in York, so it's got to be done.
You can try and do it in one day, but 10 of the bars are in York, and then 10 of the bars are like in Sheriff Hutton, almost Leeds, Selby.
How far do them scooters reach?
Well, yeah.
Andy?
I didn't have one, I'm afraid. As far as events go, it was a bit of a the best I could come up with was our trip to Springwell.
I was going to be the one. That was going to be the one that it's not my one, but I was going to be the one that if you didn't have one, the trip to Springwell was really kind of cool because it was. I think it was like one of the first things coming out of lockdown that we kind of did together.
And
it was
very
really
much,
nice.
very much in the same vein as Stu. It was not just one of the best sort of event type days. It was one of the best days of the last sort of year. It was we sat outside. It was nice weather. The food was amazing. Obviously, I can only comment on the non-alcoholic beer, but it's always nice to go somewhere where there's non-alcoholic beer available to buy, and service was absolutely top notch. It was just a great experience all around. So that would be my event of the year, even though not an official event.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Stu, but did Hull not gain promotion that day, or possibly even win the league that day?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, that was a pretty good day out. I can also confirm, having been lucky enough to visit there on Saturday very briefly for their Christmas market. Definitely not just arranged to go and pick up beer. That they not only took on the non-alcoholic selection and offerings when they reopened, but they are still holding strong. One of their indoor fridges was taken up entirely, they had it in different sections of like their stuff and like the doubles and the birthday triples and then the fruit and all the rest of it. But and one of the end fridges was at least half full of different variations of the non-alcoholic ones that they get in from the like East Coast and all the rest of it. So it's not just a passing phase. It feels very much like North are well aware that they don't really have much of their own non-alcoholic range yet. But obviously they've just brewed that stuff with Brewlo as well. So what I guess from North's non-alcoholic side, watch this space. But yeah, we need to do that again. And I know we've said it like off air, but yeah, we definitely need to go back there as a group because it was good fun.
Well, I'm gonna bring it full circle and tick all the boxes because I put Brewer's Table down as my kind of favourite thing. I think I make no kind of hiding the fact that Wyland's one of our favourite breweries to go to. I think it's the best looking brewery in the country. I think as an event space, it's awesome. I think it was that first kind of event coming out of lockdown, and I think it was just really well organised. It was really well done. Obviously, did we have to do like truffle tests? I think we did, didn't we?
We did. We did, but then also everything was also very much table service, and you could do it. Everything was through the app, which this was partly, as well organised as that is, this was partly the reason why I couldn't pick that, because We all know what happens when Stu sat down for the entire evening and had an absolute skinful. There were some very wobbly legs leaving that building.
But I thought, like the interaction and stuff like that, it was kind of more personal kind of side to it that you perhaps don't get from a festival. Sometimes I think the breweries can get a bit cliquey because obviously they know each other and they're pals and stuff like that. Whereas they kind of came out, particularly if you stayed a little bit longer, to come and chat. So yeah, I just really enjoyed it. And I thought, fair play to them to kind of organise it, kind of from there.
Special shout to the guy from MacLeod who came and sat on our table, and we told him that we thought his beer was shit, and he still stayed at the table to talk to us for ages. So that's he was looking for constructive criticism, I believe, is the phrase. But he got it.
Bless him. I mean, we had other ones of their beers, and their other beers were fantastic. The slow sour was slow. Right then, let's get into alcohol-free beer of the year. We'll save Andy till last because this is the man's category. Paul, go on in, your alcohol-free beer of the year.
I hate to be that guy, but it's another repeat. But it is the Soft Scoop by Gypsy Hill. It was just unbelievable. I think over the course of, obviously Andy's yet to try this, as I've not been able to deliver the can to him, mainly because, well, let's call a spade. Laziness, I suppose, is the easiest way to say it. But obviously he'll get it within the next week, so it should be one that he could enjoy over the festive period. I'll be amazed if he doesn't have a similar opinion to it that we did. It was even a beer that, while she was at Craft Beer Calling, it was probably Amy's favourite beer of the evening, as I believe she went back about 3 or 4 times to get it. So it's definitely a popular beer, alcohol-free or otherwise, amongst everyone in our group. So it just ticked all the boxes for me. Sharp, tasty, full-bodied. It was just an absolute belter.
I am looking forward to seeing what Andy makes of it especially after we've all hyped it up.
Proper.
Like, it's just literally, if you've ever had a screwball and you know that kind of flavour, the thing that makes me worry slightly is you've now said about the vanilla thing earlier on.
I've been coming round to the idea of vanilla recently. I have a very large bottle of vanilla syrup in my kitchen because whilst I was teaching myself to make a variety of definitely not a particular brand of coffee, all the recipes for the ones that I like the most were like vanilla. I'm like, you can piss off. And every time I tried to make it, I was like, there's just something missing. And I had a little, I'm pretty sure it was actually Paul's, a little splash of vanilla syrup in the house at the time. I was like, fine. Poured it. I was like, yep, that's what's missing. So I'm coming round to the ways of the vanilla.
I can't. Soft Scoop's mine. It's it's an absolutely awesome beer. Just it stands up against any others. Right, Andy, your alcohol-free beer of the year.
Very much in the vein of I don't want to be a repeat performance, and as I said earlier, I did have to move some stuff around. It's the Rush Rider pastry sour. I'm pretty sure I tasted that live on a Pursuit of Hoppiness podcast and was like, what is this? It gave everything that it was supposed to, because all I could taste was like, I can taste pastry. It was, for me, it was like my first sort of foray into the world of things that are supposed to taste like things are supposed to taste, sort of thing. It was like, I don't know how to process this. We all remember the moment in time where I went up to the bathroom and I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to order the box of 12 pastry sours. and felt really good about it. Came down and I said to Leanne, I was like, I've done it. I've ordered the box of 12 pastry sours. She was like, yeah, to go with the one that I've just ordered. So 24 pastry sours arrived at my house, and I couldn't have been happier. I have officially finished the last one. We had to have a moment's silence for it, and it is hands down my favourite beer I've ever had. It's it gives me warm fuzzy feelings when I'm drinking it. So yeah, that is non-alcoholic beer of the year for this guy.
There you go. Rush Rider, I think the crew, for now, coming on to your crown. Right then, the beer of the year. Going to lead us off, Stu?
Well, I will finish where you started for me, naming me the Dark Lord right from the off. It was my stout of the year. It is also my beer of the year. The Dream Child by Brew York, part of the Freaky franchise series. The Rocky Road Ice Cream Pastry Stout at 14%. I know that we regularly do the bit about rebrews on here. Brew York, please do that. Just do that all the time, every week. Thank you very much. Thank you, please. Thank you. That's my bit.
Excellent. Paul?
So mine is one that took place at Hop City. It was one that I believe over the course of the evening you boys were told to be on the money or on the ball when it started pouring. It was a beer by a brewery called Tripping Animals, and it was, as he says, frantically scrolling through to try and find more of the breakdown of it. It was the King Louis Pie, 6% beer. I can't find it.
I've got it here. I've got it right here, I think.
Sour. Fruited sour. Yeah. Pie-inspired sour ale conditioned with blueberry, sweet cherry, graham cracker, almonds and nut sugar. I mean, obviously, at Hop City, the beer was being served in these 100ml biodegradable pots. I think the second we each got one, I know I certainly went back and got one again for each of us, and the organizer who we were stood talking to at the time. And then I think we went back again. So I seem to remember having at least 3 of them, and happily would have just stood and drank that for the rest of the evening because it was that good.
Excellent. Yeah, I agree with that one. I was hoping that one of you two would say that one, because I also kind of picked one from Hop City. You can probably realise it, probably think which one I've got. I've gone with the Broccoli Special Reserve from Other Half Brewing in America, which was an Imperial Double IPA. Yeah, you can pull out your face, but yeah, sucks to be you on your own set.
I was nowhere near. I didn't get to try this fucking beer.
I'll tell you what, right? Not many people did, on the basis that, as it turned out, the guy that was pulling the beer for Other Half was, to all intents and purposes, a Northern Monk member of staff. And as he connected the keg and firstly got the beer through, I think he pulled one for each of the people that was like on the row, because he knew it would just go. So we all had some, and then by the time that we had a chance to maybe go back for seconds or thirds, it was all gone. It went so quickly. It was like it was a case of like he was like, "Watch this," and that was it. It was just boring. It was gone.
It was absolutely awesome. It was just, again, it's that a really good balance, well balanced there, like double IPA. It was just yeah. It's one of those things where obviously we had your mate Andy who described the that Brew York stout so eloquently, and I'm just here going because there's just nothing that I can say about the beer. It drank so well. It tasted so good. It had a real kind of just depth to the flavour of it. Kind of when you drank it, you're just like, yeah, this is a special beer, and I'm so glad to be stood right next to the person who's pouring it right now, so I can like shufty some along to people. So yeah, right then. So let's go back. Let's go to the final category of the year. Brewery of the year. That's the big one. Sat on the edge of their seats. Alright, people are probably thinking they know who everyone else is going to predict and going to give us their kind of thing. Right then, Andy, we'll start with you with this one. Who is your brewery of the year?
Good choice.
It's got to be from like everything I've said, from things like those packs that I had like 8 different beers in. They are the specialist non-alcoholic brewery, and of course they brew what I've said is my favourite beer. I think as an all-rounder, they just hit it out of the park. They're really, like, everything I've ever read about them is like they're trying to pave the way for non-alcoholic stuff. And I think there's been many a times when we've drunk something of theirs, as you guys as alcoholic beer drinkers often point out, that they make some beers that's like you can barely tell. So I love what they're doing. I love the stuff that comes out of them. The collabs that they do and things like that. They are absolutely brewery of the year for me.
That's brilliant. Paul?
So mine was a toss-up between two. It was between North, which no one will be surprised to hear, and my eventual winner, which again no one will be shocked to hear, is the Homer pick, but it is the Brew York boys. Over the course of the year, they've supplied me with the majority of the beer that I've been supping. I was on the subscription for about 3 months. Never got around to drinking the beers in a month, so I've just been stacking them for however long. So I've still got some in the stash. So Christmas will be, if I drink them all, it will be hefty. Let's put it that way. As there's quite a lot of stouts left in there. So, but yeah, Brew York for me. They're consistently churning out good products. Obviously, whenever you boys come down, it's always on the list of places to go and stuff like that. It's a regular horn, and yeah, just a consistent big hitter.
Thanks, Stu.
Unfortunately for the terms of the podcast, I have also picked Brew York. Now, that might be a surprise. People maybe thought I would pick North out and out. I don't know. If it had been like the year before, it absolutely would have been North. However, as Paul mentioned the subscription box, as we've mentioned it on the podcast before, I have had quite a few subscription boxes from different places, whether it be an actual brewery, whether it be a mixed bag of different breweries. Brew York is the only one I've stuck with. My next box will mark the year anniversary, and if I'm entirely honest about it, it's not because every single beer in that box is out of the park, knocked out of the park. For example, last month I had a beer that was in my box that was actually off. It was bad. Might think that's a bit of a strange reason to then still include them in this bracket, but they dealt with it within 30 minutes of me emailing them to say what had happened. The customers, so not just purely from the flavour, what they try and do with the beers, from an actual service point of view as well. Can't fault them. It's a lovely little bonus bitterness that they crank out, stuff like the Dream Child, like the S'mores Tom Coco, like normal Tom Coco, like Katy Berry, Simon Lemon, to up that. I could literally sit here for the rest of the time that we've got on this recording and keep reeling off beer names. And there'd be not a bad beer amongst it. And the ones that are off, they replace very quickly. But genuinely, yeah, people probably thought it would be North. But I guess unfortunately for the Leeds-based outfit, they've now got 2 votes for for Brew York on our pod.
And well, mine is I've gone with Vault City. I think Vault City this year have just produced so many beers that I've enjoyed, so many beers that I've liked, so many beers that I've won, so many beers that have surprised me. And like I know Pete, you're like again. I think Pete, you thought Wylam, and Wylam have produced some good beers this year, but I don't know. Part of me like, have they pushed? Like, have they produced something? They produced, like obviously I said the Tales of the Majestic Pup was awesome, and some of the new kind of Lush and Smush are great. But there's been nothing that's been like, oh right, wow, okay then. Whereas the Vault City stuff has just been like, right, here's an awesome sour, here's a new idea, here's something that we've done with someone. I've got the Alpha Delta Sour IPA in the garage, and I'm just like, yeah, that's gonna be awesome. So my brewery of the year is Vault City. Just as an interesting brewery, moving forward, just to kind of I like what they've done this year. I'm looking forward to drinking more of the beers moving forward.
See, from the Vault City side of things, I only really know them as like a sour beer producer. I don't know if that genuinely is their MO, but the ones I've had have been absolutely awesome. The fact that they've managed to get a couple in to Tesco's as well. Shout out to the raspberry sour that was in Tesco's, because that was incredible. But from Craft Beer Calling, the blueberry and pumpkin spice sour that I had there was awesome. Really, really good beer. But I'd be interested to know a bit more about them. And since you mentioned them on here now as your brewery of the year, and we haven't featured them, then maybe we need to put them higher up the list for future podcasts. Definitely.
The pineapple and habanero sour was just mental. It was absolutely mental. It was awesome. And it was, honestly, I sat there and I thought most of the categories I filled out quickly. And I was like, well, who's my brewery of the year? Like, whose beers have I drank most of that I've enjoyed the most? Brew York were definitely up there. North were up there. Wylam, when I thought about the IPAs, I was like, yeah, well, Wylam, just solid IPAs all the way through. But then I was like, nah, it's definitely Vault City. But yeah, Vault City, we should drink more as hopefully like feature them as a brewery. But yeah, that concludes our end of year review. It's been like an epic 2 hour, I think. So I hope everyone enjoys. I hope you kind of had the stamina to stick with it. But thank you, gents, for all your contributions to it. And call it an evening there.
Call it a year, in fact.
Yeah, call it a year.
Yes, a year. There we go. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And look out for more Pursuit of Hoppiness episodes coming in the new year. Bye, boys.
Bye.
So there you go. What do you think to that? It was a big episode, but well worth it to find out the best beers of the year. The best venues as well. Best places to go to drink beer. What could be better than that? Big thank you to everybody involved, and a big thank you to you for listening along, and an even bigger thank you to you if you are one of our lovely subscribers. You can also jump over to our website, thecookiecast.com, where you can get in touch with us, let us know what your favourite beer of the year was. So there we go, that's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.